board.
Thank you all very much. It is indeed an honor and a pleasure to be here back in Worcester today for this event for a couple of reasons. One, because of Major Taylor himself. I am a closet cyclist. I get out every week, probably anywhere between 35 and 50 miles a week on the weekend. So a weekend warrior on the bicycle. And I wish I was out there this morning with you guys when you were riding the roads, but I couldn't get here early enough. The other reason why I'm excited to be here, because I get a chance to really introduce my idol, and I had a chance to talk to Edwin for about 15 minutes prior to this introduction, and it took every ounce of me not to really talk about what I really wanted to say in this presentation. I kind of have a history that goes back that he's not aware of. Back in 1983, when I was an athlete at Boston University, I had a chance to qualify and go on to the U.S. Track and Field Championships and compete in the 400-meter intermediate hurdles. And I was this young kid from Boston who I've done well in terms of the track field, but this was the first time I'd ever been on a stage that big in front of so many people, in front of some of the greatest athletes in the world. And believe me, that my head was spinning the whole time. And I remember going, the day I got there, I decided to go to the track, and I looked at the heat sheet to see where I was going to be the next day racing. And I knew there was a good chance that I was going to be in the race with Edwin Moses, but I just wasn't sure. So I get to the track that morning, and I look at the heat sheets, and I look up, and I see Edwin Moses in lane 4, and I'm like, wow, there he is, right? And then I looked, and I saw myself in lane 5, and I went, oh, goodness, what am I doing? I asked, I kind of got my dream, what I asked for. So anyway, I was all excited. In fact, Edwin had this amazing streak going of consecutive victories in a track and field event. So I went home, back to the hotel, went to bed early as if that was going to help somehow, that morning. And I got up the next day and was just so excited to sort of be there and race that day. So when I got out there and I was warming up, and Edwin came down and he was stretching, and when he stretched left, I stretched left, he stretched right, I was trying to figure out some kind of connection here. So then, they had an interesting way that they introduced all the athletes for that particular track meet. In fact, what they did is they had you in what was called the marshalling area, and then they would ask you to they would call your name, and then you would jog out to your lane and get in your lane. And so they would call lane 1, Joe Schmo. He'd walk out, and everybody would be cheering for him. They'd get to lane 2, they get to 3, they get to lane 4. The man, world record holder, winner of, and they just, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it just, the crowd, probably 12,000 people, maybe more, cheering wildly and loudly, and he marched out, and he was waving, and so I was the next one. So all of a sudden you just heard this mumbling sound, through all the noise of the cheering for Edwin, because he was yet to be at his lane. And the guy behind me tapped me on my shoulder and he said, I think that's you. So of course I go jogging out to my lane. Not a soul in the crowd knows who I am. If my mother was there, maybe she would have figured it out. But I get to my lane, and you gotta imagine at that time what the spectacle was when Edwin was in a race. And this was my first time really experiencing it. So I get to my lane, and of course there's photographers in my lane, there's photographers standing on the side over here, they're all taking pictures, using each other's tripods, heads as tripods, whatever. They're just taking pictures. And I'm just sitting there just going, I can't believe this is happening, right? So, long story short, we get in the lane, the starter says, okay, runners, take your marks, get set. I stand up, I get in the set position, and for some strange reason, I decided I was going to take a peek under my arm just to see him one last time. And unfortunately for me, the starter stopped us. He asked us to stand up, and he asked the photographers to, stop clicking the cameras so that we can run this race. So the race runs, I take off, I'm running as fast as I can down the backstretch, and I'm going down the backstretch, and I'm wondering, where's Edwin? He's got to be here somewhere because I know he's coming. And so we got around the 5th hurdle. I think it was going into the 6th hurdle. He came around me, and then he kept going. And I finished up. I didn't do too bad. I ended up finishing 4th in that heat, and I needed to finish 3rd in order to make the finals. But when I walked back towards the finish line, I was just so full of myself, just like, I just can't believe this just happened. And I walked past Edwin, and he stuck his hand out, and we shook hands. And I went home, and I thought, man, that was my memory. That was my moment to really, race against my idol and do something really special. Well, it didn't end there. I got home, and a couple of weeks later, I got called into my coach's office, and my coach said to me, Richard, I have something for you. So I said, I was wondering what it was, and he passed me this envelope. So in this envelope was this little tiny picture. And when I opened up the picture had a note on it. It was from an anonymous person. And the note said, I think Richard would want this. And so when I pulled it back, to my astonishment, there I was at the 5th hurdle with Edwin Moses tied. And believe me, when I went home, none of my friends believed this story, So you all have seen that American Express commercial where it's just priceless, there's the moment, right? Well, I have this picture here today. And I've taken this picture, and I've actually blown this picture up. I've had it in my office for 25 years. Seriously. I mean, I've had it. If you've worked with me in Worcester here and other places, I keep this picture in my office. I have it framed. I have it sitting there as a memory of, it's not just my own track career, but just that moment too. And it's been a special sort of moment, and it gives me great honor and pleasure to introduce Edwin here today. And I'm hoping at some point today he'll sign this picture, because that's the only thing that's missing. But it gives me an honor and a pleasure to introduce Edwin Moses today. Everybody knows about his tremendous accolades on the sports field, but he's an engineer. I've learned a lot about his foundation and other works that he's been involved in, but he's been not just a world record holder, Olympic champion, a great athlete. He's a humanitarian. He's just a phenomenal person, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome our chairman of the Major Taylor Association's Monument Committee to the podium. Edmund?